Genocide is something that has a very broad meaning. To say that we are experiencing a white genocide in South Africa at the moment, I think is maybe pushing it a bit. But, who knows where this could go in the future, given, the hate speech, in our view, kill the farmer, kill the boer, bang, bang. And I mean, these guys get an audience to do that. It kind of gives one the idea that it's condoned and it's okay to just go out and kill farmers. And I don't just mean white farmers, I mean commercial farmers, white, black and all colors. The white crosses along the Normandine Road were planted effectively 10 meters apart on either side of the road as a kind of memorial to farmers that have been murdered, commercial farmers that have been murdered in South Africa. It was a temporary thing. They were there basically for around 48 hours.
They're so small for the camera.
Right? Not one for cameras.
We have a problem with the shoot the farmer, kill the boer, bang bang story. It's very unsettling for us as commercial farmers. We live in an isolated rural areas where we are vulnerable, and it kind of gives people the message that it's okay to kill farmers. Who knows where it'll go in the future when we look at this expropriation without compensation bill, which hasn't been tested yet in any court of law, but it's going to come at some point. What if we look at land invasions like we saw happen in Zimbabwe? Are our authorities going to allow this?
We have thousands of stories talking about it. Sure. And we have documentaries, we have news stories, and that. Is Natalie here? Somebody here to turn that? I could show you a couple of things, and I have to. It has to be responded to.
Yeah, sure.
Let me see the articles, please, if you would. And turn the lights down. Turn the lights down. Now this is very bad. These are burial sites right here. Burial sites. Over 1,000 of white farmers, and those cars are lined up to pay love on a Sunday morning. Each one of those white things you see is a cross, and there's approximately 1,000 of them. They're all white farmers, the family of white farmers.
I think I was watching that and it was quite a shock, and he mentioned that every one of those crosses was a burial ground for a dead farmer, which is clearly not correct. But I just thought it was very sad that, look, all I know about America is what I see on TV, but they're meant to have one of the best intelligence systems in the world, and I thought it's really sad that the President of America isn't properly briefed, that he would make a mistake like that. Right, this is the road where we're standing. The procession started in Newcastle and everybody drove out. It was the whole community as part of the Move 1 Million. Drove out to the farm gates and put flowers down in memory of Glenn and Vida. It was a very impressive and very emotional sight, I must say. we weren't part of the procession because it happened at the same time as the funeral. That we're basically 5 years since the murder. I can tell you the morning that I received a phone call from their son and their daughter-in-law were travelling through to Newcastle to stay with them. And at about 6 o'clock that morning, my phone rang and I saw it was Tamsin. I thought, oh dear, she must have pocket dialed me because she'd have no reason for phoning me. And then she told me that Glen and Vida had been attacked last night. And that was all information I had. I didn't know what had happened. And then gradually we got the information that they had been murdered. And I was still thinking, are they all right? Are they hurt? Are they in hospital? Never dreamt that they'd been murdered. And I can't tell you what a shock it was. And it was like a pain. I felt like an animal. I wanted to go out into the field and just scream until that pain had gone. And I think I did. I got into the shower and I was almost like keening, I think. And to try and just physically release the pain that was in me. And I think their murder has had an impact, like all the murders do. I mean, their farm has been sold. Their youngest son has immigrated to Australia. I'd actually begun to feel after 5 years that I could think of Vida and remember the joy and the happy times. And this whole crosses in the White House and the controversy was like somebody ripped the scab off and opened the wound up again. And where I'd begun to feel a bit of healing, I now felt like I was straight back to the horror and the hurt that happened.
The president showed a video that he said showed more than 1,000 burial sites of white South Africans that he said were murdered. We know that that was not true and that the video wasn't showing that. So I wonder, why did the president choose to show that? What's not true, Yamiche? It's not true that the video was showing a burial site. It is unsubstantiated that that's the case.
No, it is true that that video showed the crosses that represent...
Which is what the president claimed.
The video showed images of crosses in South Africa about white farmers who have been killed and politically persecuted because of the color of their skin. And those crosses are representing their lives. Those crosses are representing their lives in the fact that they are now dead and their government did nothing about it. Are you disputing that there's no...
The fact that the video showed what the president claimed it showed, because it did not show that. But even more, what I'm asking you is who at the White House...
No, it did show that. It showed white crosses representing people who have perished because of racial persecution.
Luagatora, uzohamba nami. So we've stored these crosses here because we don't know when we might need them again. We've already had the occasion where we've had to use them, where my best friend, Tolly Nell, was murdered on the 13th of June last year. And we used these same crosses to line the road into his farm.
No, it's not the right thing because everyone has got a right in South Africa to survive, and they're giving us job opportunities. Otherwise, most of us have been staying at home and not working.
South Africa is a full democratic state with a lot of NGOs, NPOs, and free media. They would have run headlines both locally and abroad on seeing the first sign of a genocide. The picture of many crosses on both sides of a dead road between Newcastle and Normandy in KZN flows from a Normandin registered case, 19 of 8 of 2020, where the incident occurred on the 30th of September that year on Hanover Farm. It's a sad story of Mr. G. Rafferty and Mrs. V.L. Rafferty. They were sadly murdered by criminals in their home. The incident sparked a very strong protest by the farming community in the area. The crosses symbolized killings on farms over years. They are not graves. They don't represent graves. And it was unfortunate that those facts got twisted to fit a false narrative about crime in South Africa.
Look, these are articles over the last few days. Death of people. Death, 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 horrible death. Death, I don't know. To pick anyone, white South Africans are fleeing because of the violence and racist laws.
The amount of farmers that's been killed in the past 30 years, it works out to about 11% of farmers has been killed in the past 30 years. If you make the same assumption that there's no crime, there is crime. Is black people part of a crime? Yes, they are. Are they being genocide? If the percentage had to go up, yes, I would say it's a black genocide as well. So when you sit back and you say 11% of farmers has been killed in the past 30 years versus 1.2%, if you work out the little bit of logistics of 80 people gets killed per day, and you just work it backwards, 1% of other races, let me rather put it that way, gets killed. Is it right? No, it's not right. It's a white genocide because of the percentages of the people. And the problem comes in by how they get murdered. My neighbor was killed 3 farms away from me. Hit over the head, his wife beaten in hospital for 3 months into ICU. They could only bury him 6 months after he was killed because she needed to be at the funeral. Is that just a killing? Or is that a martyrous, vindictive killing? And is that then a genocide? In my opinion, it's a genocide. He's one of our small ones. Is it right that there is crime in this country? No. Is it right for me to have to walk with a gun to protect myself? No. Is it my right to actually walk here and just be free without crime, without whatever? That is everybody's right. I walk around with a gun for a reason. I am afraid of my life, for my life, not for my life. But you could be targeted, or I can be targeted. If you think about it, you walk on a farm. What is the guarantee that you are safe? There's no guarantee whatsoever. And you are alone. Yes, I've got my dogs, but what is a dog going to do in the end of the day if somebody... Am I afraid for my life in South Africa? Yes, I am. Am I afraid for my life? Yes, I am. And you want to try and live and live past it to say, no, we aren't. But I think a lot of South Africans, not just farmers, are afraid for their lives. And it is a victimization of white people in a general.
Yeah, I think that those were quite dramatic scenes, and raucous even. I thought it was really interesting to see the way that the American government handles the interactions with the media in a way that is very different to our government. So I think the genocide claim is a very hyperbolic claim. And with Donald Trump, he's got a special way of communicating that is hard to interpret. And in a way, I think what's happening is that if you point with your finger somewhere, then some people will look at the finger. But what you're actually meant to be looking at is the thing that the finger is pointing at. And what Trump is doing is that the finger is the genocide, so you're like staring at this thing, but you're actually meant to be looking over there, which is where the very high murder rate in South Africa is sitting. So over 600,000 South Africans killed since 1994, over 500,000 people. We've got a situation currently where last year 26,000 people were killed in South Africa, murdered. That means that every day 72 people are killed. Every 20 minutes, one person is murdered. And that really is the problem. And that needs to be addressed.
And I will see you gentlemen tomorrow. Cheers.
Why not? Thank you very much. Our observation from polling is that race relations in South Africa are actually not incredibly delicate. They're actually quite robust. We find that most South Africans get along with each other quite well across racial lines. And much of what we're seeing in terms of polarization is actually driven by politicians for political purposes. But if you think of ordinary South Africans that you meet every day, most of us get along quite well with one another. And the interaction in the White House, I think, will not have changed that much. But of course, the polarized rhetoric in South Africa still continues. That is something we're trying to address.
A revolution demands that at some point there must be killing, because the killing is part of a revolutionary act. Shoot to kill, Yamaza, kill the poor, the farmer. They were speaking about me in that meeting at White House. If they were not gossiping about me, they should have called me into that meeting. I would have answered everything that Donald Trump wanted from us. In America, he will never do that nonsense in my presence, because I will. We don't have mass graves of white people in South Africa. Comrades, Donald Trump says to him, "Hey Ramaphosa, why are you not arresting this Julius Malema? Why is this Julius Malema not in jail?" He can't respond with a simple fact that this song, "Kill the Boer, Kill the Farmer," was approved by the Constitutional Court. We are a constitutional democracy. Kill the poor, the farmer. Kill the poor, the farmer.
As South Africans, we value our liberty very highly, because before 1994 there was an unjust system in place that placed great restrictions on things like freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom of movement, and many other civil liberties. And so South Africa currently upholds the value of freedom of speech very, very highly, and that is something we should respect. I think, it's a borderline case whether somebody should chant something like this. And in a way, I'm happy that our courts have said he should be allowed to do it, as long as he's not directly, imminently inciting to violence that leads to deaths immediately. But at the same time, I also think that our political class that does not sit on the radical fringes like the EFF does should not feel constrained from condemning speech like that. So it should be far easier, and it is something that President Ramaphosa, for example, should do far more frequently. He should say, look, our courts have said that Mr. Malema is entitled to chant and sing the song "Kill the Boer." I don't agree with it. I don't think it should be done. He could also point out that his organization, the ANC, used to sing that song and has stopped doing so, out of a sense of civic responsibility. And that is really the way this should be addressed. Speech should be countered with speech wherever possible. Often countering speech through the force of the law is not such a good idea.
Viva EFF, viva! Long live the EFF in Soshanguve, long live! Long live the EFF in Attersville, long live!
We will not accept any racism. We will not accept you to exclude any black person from living on this land. South Africa belongs to all the people.
What would it take for you to be convinced that there's no white genocide in South Africa?
Well, I can answer that for the President. It's for him. No, seriously.
I'd rather have him answer.
Yeah, I'd rather answer that. It will be.
Our President will respond to you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. President.
It will take President Trump listening to the voices of South Africans, some of whom are his good friends, like those who are here. When we have talks between us on the quiet table, it will take President Trump to listen to them. I'm not going to be repeating what I've been saying. I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me.
President Ramaphosa actually was a cool-headed. He didn't allow Trump to actually, even though he was some sort of ambushing President Ramaphosa, but he didn't actually raise anything. Then he kept his cool down and he focused what he was there for.
You see, the thing with politics, there will always be politics. You know, politics is like a mind game and a chess game. The house always wins. Yes, we have issues with crime. Yes, we have issues with white farmers being killed. But the last time that I read or heard about a white farmer being killed in the farm, it's been long compared to a black child or a black community being killed. Like we still have a Toto case that's still going on, unresolved. Sezomeo case is still unresolved. So it's politics.
Donald Trump is deeply concerned about genocide in South Africa, or more to the point, white genocide in South Africa. But he's contributing to genocide somewhere else in the world when he actively supports Israel to kill a nation where they aren't supposed to be. They came here in the 1900s. It's the original territory of that people, and he is helping them oppressing. He's still helping people to take over a country.